Second hour of Clay and Buck kicks off now. We've got our friend Ryan Girdusky joining us to break down the numbers, where this race stands. He is the author of the National Populist newsletter on Substack. Go check it out. Go become a subscriber. I am one. Ryan, good to have you back, man. Can I jump into one thing first before we do Pennsylvania,
Sure.
Michigan, Wisconsin?
It's your show.
Is this true about Detroit? Have you seen this floating around that Detroit's early ballots, 40% of them have already been returned for Democrats of the number outstanding, or is this just like internet stuff?
Well, it's not. So it's not for Democrats. It's 40% returns. Michigan is one of the states that doesn't have registration by party. So we have no idea who is turning them in, whether they be Republican.
But it's going to be like
or
80% Democrat votes, probably, right? I mean, just because it's Detroit.
Probably. If it's the city of Detroit itself, it's probably like 95%. I mean, it's close to 95%. Yeah, it's almost monolithic. The Democratic vote.
Is that suspicious, or is that they've got a good ground game? Republicans wake up. What is that?
Well, I mean, in Pennsylvania, out of Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Montgomery County, remember Montgomery is a very, very wealthy white suburban county, Democrats have a 36% turnout so far. I mean, so it's not completely unreasonable that they would have a 40%, especially if they're going to apartment buildings, the projects, Section 8 housing or whatever, and saying, here's your absentee ballot, fill it out, give it back to me, and they're block walking. It's not impossible if they've got a really good ground game to execute. You have to also remember, though, as much as people are getting anxiety about this, and yeah, this is a very number early out for Detroit, the population of Detroit is shrinking. There are 6,000 fewer people there than there were 4 years ago. There's over 10,000 people fewer there than were 8 years ago. So, yeah, it's a lot of people, but there are less people there, period, to go vote. But they're showing up, and Republicans need to act like this is an election. Because in Pennsvote, Democrats are having a really strong election day turnout, early ballot turnout, early election vote turnout, much, much higher than Republicans. There are 24 counties in Pennsylvania right now where over 10% of all registered Democrats have already voted. There is not a single county in Pennsylvania where over 10% of Republicans have voted. And it's not that they're not requesting the ballots. They're keeping a pace with it. Over the weekend, there was 41,000 Democrats who requested a ballot and 40,000 Republicans, which is really excellent for Republicans because they never keep pace with absentee ballot requests. But they're just not handing them in. I don't know if they think that it counts just to get the ballot mailed to you, but the requests, or maybe they're not being mailed to them yet in small rural counties, but the requests are very, very high for Republicans. The return rate is very, very poor.
So now tell me this. What's the good news, the bad news situation for the GOP right now in Pennsylvania as we talk here October 15th?
Well, the good news for Pennsylvania is that the absentee ballot request, people who are asking for a ballot request, is very high. It's almost 500,000, and it's almost 200,000 larger than 2022. If 2020 is the apex highest amount of absentee ballots we're going to see, mostly because of COVID, Republicans are a little more than 250,000. There are 276,000 absentee ballot requests less than 2020. Democrats are still over 900,000 less than 2020. I mean, Republicans are requesting the ballots. The bad part of it is burning the ballots. Now, in part, that's because big blue counties like Allegheny, where Pittsburgh is, Philadelphia, and Montgomery started their ballot process much earlier than the other counties. In Pennsylvania, it's county by county that decides what dates they're going to start counting the ballots and receiving the ballots. One small county is still not accepting ballots, which is a small Republican county, but that's besides the point. So Republicans are keeping up with the absentee ballot requests. They are not returning them at the same rate. 36% of all Democrats have returned their ballots, and only 26% of Republicans have turned their ballots.
Do you think, Ryan, there's a chance that a lot of those who requested the absentee ballot who are on the Republican side want to hand it in person, so that just means it's going to be slower, like they want to go to the polling place, or is that wishful thinking?
That's partial. No, I mean, that could be that could 100. You have until election day. You only have until the 29th to request a ballot in Pennsylvania. You have till the 22nd or the 21st to request to register to vote. But you have until the 29th to mail your ballot, so to request a ballot. So they could very well just show up on election day and give it in. It also may mean that these are lower propensity voters who are just slower. They put their ballot next to their electric bill, and they're going to get to them both at the end of the month. And it doesn't mean the world to them. What we have seen in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, now in Georgia today is election day, the first day up. We're seeing these big blue precincts have record-breaking turnout. We saw it in Virginia, we saw it in Pennsylvania, and now today we're seeing it in Georgia, where blue precincts, blue counties are just exploding with first-day voting registration. They just broke the record today, or they're about to break the record today in Georgia, mostly by Democrats going to vote. They're vote for the first day. But what we saw after a few days, that tampers off. They do slow down because you can only go vote. So, or you're only supposed to go vote once, but you can only go vote once. So the numbers are declining after the first, day of this huge surge. Now that could be your MSNBC viewer, your person who is, reading The Nation and lives to hate Donald Trump, and they just have to go vote the second they possibly can. And as that time, drifts away, you're having lower propensity voters sit there and show up. But that's not guaranteed. So Republicans need to get those lower propensity voters out. That Republican chase of those absentee ballots in Pennsylvania is really, really essential right now because they are requesting them, but they're not turning them in fast enough.
Speaking of Ryan Girdusky, National Populist Newsletter on Substack is his. I highly recommend it to you if you really want to be up on the politics. Ryan, battleground Wisconsin. Take me into that on the presidential and the Senate side of things. What do we know from the data so far? How's it looking?
So there's no party registration in Wisconsin. So we don't know Republican versus Democrat. Anyone who's saying such and such percentage of Republicans are voting versus X and X, Y of Democrats, they are making it up. They're using analytics like Target Smart. I don't trust those things as they are wrong 9 times out of 10. So just don't get excited by any of that information. What we are seeing is so far about 200,000 people in Wisconsin have voted, which is a high number. They're getting out early. The biggest counties are obviously Milwaukee and Dane County. They are showing up with about 56,000 out of 200,000 votes. So 25% are coming out of the two bluest counties. But there is a lot of parts of like Waukesha, which did go for Trump in the last 2 elections. Waukesha has a good early turnout of 17,000. Kenosha has, which also went for Trump in the last 2 elections. They have a turnout of 6,000. That's a decent turnout for Kenosha. I can't pronounce half of these other places. I'm not going to insult the people of Wisconsin by pretending to pronounce your city's names. But they're so far seeing some decent turnout out of the rurals, very high turnout out of the major blue areas. The polling looks very good in Wisconsin. You had Senator Tammy Baldwin about a week and a half ago leak to the Wall Street Journal that Kamala is losing in her internals by 3 points in Wisconsin. And there was, I think, a poll today having the election tied for Tammy Baldwin's U.S. Senate seat. They are very, very, very bullish on Wisconsin. Republicans are right now. Democrats are worried because if Kamala loses North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin, she loses the election. Now, if she loses Pennsylvania and even wins Arizona, it doesn't matter. But the path of the Sun Belt plus Wisconsin is very real, and Republicans are very ambitious. And there are a couple of smaller counties that are showing up in decent amounts to sit there and return their ballots. Half of which I cannot pronounce because they are Wisconsin names.
I want to ask you what, on both sides of this, but take them one at a time, right? So first off, what do you think is the single most positive indicator for Trump at this point in this cycle? And then what is the thing that concerns you the most for Trump at this point in the cycle?
Well, momentum with polls for sure. We saw over the weekend. We saw the NBC News poll, which has them as a tie. Which literally my jaw hit the floor because I figured it would be Kamala plus 5 because that's how that poll usually goes. ABC Washington Post saw a 4-point jump for Trump in Trump's direction. NBC was 5 points. Those are not Republican leaning polls at all. That is a very polling information. And what I said to a top person on the Trump campaign What's different now than in 2022 when there was this, mirage of good polling out of blue states at the very end, and we said, oh, maybe Oz could win, maybe this person could win. Those polls were almost entirely made up of Republican-leaning pollsters. And I like the people like at Trafalgar and Insider Advantage, but that was who was saying they're up by, and they weren't. But the other pollsters like the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Emerson were all saying, no, they're losing. If you look at polls right now in Pennsylvania specifically, the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Susquehanna, Marist, Washington Post, Muhlenberg, Emerson, they're all saying Trump's in the lead in Pennsylvania. Those are not partisan Republican polls. So that is good. The bad thing right now on the negative side for Trump is just the early vote. Democrats are hoping to build such a substantial firewall going into this election that come election day, if they have 800,000 votes banked from the early vote in Pennsylvania, banked in Wisconsin, banked in Michigan, it's not going to really matter because there just won't be enough people. Remember, there's always the guy or the woman who intends to vote and then their car breaks down, their kid's crying, they forget, they get a double shift and they forget to vote, but they put it off till election day. Democrats know that, and they play for a month of early voting. Republicans are only starting to do that, and right now it's showing that they're keeping up with the intention to go vote early, but they have yet to do it. They can still. There's still time. It's not over, but they have to sit there and start handing these ballots in.
Yeah, early voting is I feel like we're shifting, Ryan, from the battle of polls to the battle of ballots really fast here, where, okay, the polls give us a sense, but at the end of the day, it's ballot collection operations and, ballot, in places that allow it, ballot harvesting, all these things that could make all the difference. Any place that you see on the map where you're not saying Trump will win, but you think Trump could pull out a surprise, meaning like a Virginia, anything like that that's in the mix in your mind, or is it really just the big ones?
Not statewide, but the numbers that are very surprising are like in Orange County, California, which has 4 important congressional elections in a single county. Republicans are turning in absentee ballots at the same rate as Democrats were, as opposed to 4 years ago. They were way, way, way behind. Places like that are very, very interesting, where you're seeing some information and where you're seeing some signs of Republicans really fighting in these deep blue areas. And that could matter a lot for the House race and possibly the Senate race. But as far as statewide going, we basically know the same 7 states. I doubt it would be an act of God for like Maine, New Hampshire, Virginia, Minnesota, or New Mexico to flip. Though, weirder things have happened, but I'm not especially looking at any of those places for a big surprise. I'm more interested right now in the congressional elections. There was a poll today by Emerson University in Connecticut's 5th district, which is northwest Connecticut. This is a district that barely went Democrat in 2022 for the House race. It shows that Trump is winning the House race there, and Democrats and Republicans are in the margin of error. So you could see a House seat flip in Connecticut, which would be gigantic to add more New England Republicans besides poor Susan Collins, who's by herself. Those are the things that I'm interested in.
What do you think about final Senate makeup? Are we looking at 53 Republicans?
We're looking at least 51. I do think that Bernie Moreno should be able to pull it off. Ted Cruz will get through by the skin of his teeth, and just the skin of his teeth at this point.
We have Ted on tomorrow. What is going on there? I mean, we're going to talk to Senator Cruz about this, but I hate that. I feel like Democrats always pull this sleeper move. They come in from the side door, and all of a sudden they're trying to steal something in Texas. How did this happen?
Well, I mean, Ted Cruz has an issue where he has very difficult likability issues in parts of Texas. And Trump is doing especially well among Hispanics in South Texas. And from what I have heard from certain people is that Ted Cruz is not getting, there's a lot of people who are voting for Trump and then not voting for Ted Cruz.
Wow.
And that is Ted Cruz's big problem right now. He doesn't have the love of a lot of people who are voting for Trump. And also you have the suburbanization of Dallas and Houston and Austin. And as those suburbs continue to grow, they will balloon out the entire state. It's a lot of immigrants, a lot of Californians, a lot of Coloradans, and they are making the whole area more blue by moving there. So that's just, I mean, he has a difficulty down ballot. There are a lot of people in Texas who are otherwise Democrats who love Donald Trump who are not warmed up to Ted Cruz, and he is fighting for his life down there. I mean, he's got a little bit of an advantage, but it's not John Cornyn's 11-point victory just 2 years ago.
So it looks like the one bit of advice for this audience, Ryan, where you can vote early, right? Bank those votes.
Yes, go vote early. Just get it over with. Go vote and bring your cousin who always has an excuse why they're 3 hours late to go vote as well.
Ryan Girdusky of the National Populist Newsletter on Substack. Ryan, great to have you, man. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Prize Picks. Look, I'm going to tell you this. I didn't know that much about sports and sports like this before Clay and I teamed up together, but I've been learning a lot, and I've learned a lot about Prize Picks. It is so much fun. And if you see the picks that Clay has made recently, we had 2 10-to-1s of the last 3. It has been phenomenal. It's starting to claw back some of the money that I had to pay for that really expensive steak. So it's really fun, and it's a great way to, just enjoy yourself, watch the game, put a little money on the table. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So you can turn $10 into $1,000. I've been doing this. I'm going with Clay's picks every week. I got to tell you, he's been very good lately. A little bit on fire. Don't tell him I said that. He doesn't need any ego boost, but, he's been very good lately. Prize Picks, simple to use. Start by picking 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less on the Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use my name, Buck. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. So you download that Prize Picks app. Make sure you use that code BUCK Buck. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Clay loves being the guru. Check it out. Prize Picks. Run your game.